It begins with numbers that feel small and harmless, then grows into something measured in millions: shell companies, offshore accounts, and federal investigations. You move from a cramped room in New York City to boardrooms, from fake messages to $240 million in hidden assets, from silence to headlines you cannot control. Trust becomes currency, identity becomes flexible, and every layer you build hides something deeper. You believe distance protects you, that complexity makes you invisible, that the system is too slow to catch up, but patterns never disappear. They wait, and every move you make is already being recorded somewhere you cannot see. It starts on a cold morning in March 2019, inside a dim studio in Queens, New York, where you first realize how easy it is to take what is not yours. Level 1. The Hustler. You call yourself Ethan Cole, not because it is your name, but because it sounds clean, forgettable, safe in a country built on paperwork and trust. Your laptop glows with dozens of tabs, fake storefronts, copied product images, and messages waiting for replies from people who believe they are talking to someone real. You tell yourself it is just business, just numbers, just another way to survive in a city where rent eats $1,800 a month and no one cares how you make it. The first payment hits your account, a small transfer of $75, then another, then 10 more before noon, each one quiet, each one leaving a trace you pretend does not matter. You learn fast that confidence sells more than truth, that a well-written message can replace an entire company, that urgency makes people stop asking questions. By June 2019, you are pulling in close to $4,000 a week, enough to breathe, not enough to stop. You avoid thinking about the faces behind the screens, the single mom in Ohio, the college kid in Texas, because distance makes everything easier to ignore. Notifications become your heartbeat, every ping a reminder that someone out there still trusts a stranger they will never meet. But the system is not as blind as you want it to be, and somewhere in a quiet office, a report gets filed, a pattern begins to form, your name not real, but your behavior unmistakable. You notice the first sign when a payment freezes, just $120, small enough to overlook, except you do not overlook anything anymore. For the first time, the silence between transactions feels louder than the money itself, and you start to wonder who else is watching your screen from the other side. By January 2020, you are no longer chasing small transfers from a cluttered room in Queens. You are building something that looks real enough to survive scrutiny. Level 2. The Operator. You upgrade your name to Ethan Cole, founder of Northbridge Capital, a title that sounds expensive and carries weight in inboxes across California, Florida, and Illinois. You rent a modest office in Jersey City, glass walls, cheap furniture, just enough to convince anyone who walks in that this is legitimate. Your website promises steady returns, clean design, simple language, numbers like 15% monthly growth that feel believable to people who want to believe. You hire 3 remote workers, none of them asking too many questions, each one trained to respond fast, polite, and confident to every new lead. The money changes shape now, no longer dozens of small payments but wires of $5,000, $12,000, even $30,000, all flowing through accounts that look structured, layered, intentional. You track everything in clean spreadsheets, telling yourself this is no longer chaos, this is a system, this is control. By August 2020, revenue crosses $2, $3 million, and your life starts to reflect it. Better clothes, better food, a quiet sense that you have figured something out others have not. But systems create patterns, and patterns attract attention, especially when the promises stay high and the outcomes stay invisible. One of your hires, Maya Torres, begins asking questions about withdrawals, about delays, about why the numbers never quite match what clients expect. You keep your tone calm, your answers simple, but doubt has already entered the room, and doubt spreads faster than any marketing campaign. Late one night, you see a message you were not meant to see, a forwarded email, a complaint, a hint that someone is no longer convinced. You close your laptop slowly, realizing that for the first time, the risk is not outside. It is already inside your own operation, and it is about to move. By April 2021, you stop thinking like a hustler and start moving like a public figure, stepping into a glass tower in Manhattan, New York, where perception matters more than truth. Level 3. The Executive. You keep the name Ethan Cole, but now it appears in press releases, investor decks, and staged interviews that frame you as the mind behind Northbridge Capital's $50 million expansion. You sit across from venture capital firms, speaking in clean, simple terms about growth, stability, and vision. Numbers like 300%, year-over-year returns, delivered with a steady voice that never shakes. The office is no longer rented to impress walk-ins. It is designed to host meetings, polished floors, conference rooms, assistants who manage schedules down to the minute. You hire accountants who know how to present numbers in ways that look solid, even when they are built on shifting ground. Reports that pass quick reviews but avoid deep questions. By September 2021, your company is valued on paper at $180 million, and your image is everywhere. Articles, podcasts, profiles that repeat the same story until it sounds like fact. You learn that credibility is not proven, it is repeated, and repetition becomes your strongest asset. Investors stop asking where the money starts, as long as it keeps appearing on reports that look clean and consistent. But attention cuts both ways. And somewhere in Washington, D.C., a journalist named Daniel Brooks starts noticing patterns that do not align with your narrative. He compares filings, timestamps, statements that almost match but not quite, small gaps that most people ignore but he does not. You see his first inquiry come through, polite, direct, asking for clarification on figures that no one else questioned before. You respond with confidence, but for the first time in a long time, you reread your own numbers and realize they only hold together if no one looks too closely. And now someone finally is. By February 2022, you are no longer reacting to pressure. You are shaping the environment around you from inside rooms most people never enter. Level 4. The Insider. You split your time between Manhattan, New York, and Washington, D.C., moving through meetings where decisions are made in quiet tones and recorded in clean summaries. You surround yourself with attorneys from firms that bill $1,200 an hour, consultants who understand how to structure deals so they stay within the edges of the law without crossing it outright. Your company, Northbridge Capital, now operates through a web of entities across Delaware, Nevada, and offshore jurisdictions, each layer adding distance between the source and the surface. Transactions become harder to follow, numbers routed through channels that look ordinary on paper. Amounts like $75 million in quarterly flows that blend into the larger system. You learn the language of compliance, how to answer questions without answering them, how to provide documents that satisfy requirements while revealing nothing essential. By June 2022, your network includes contacts inside banks, regulators, and advisory boards. Not direct control, but enough familiarity to understand how scrutiny moves and where it slows down. You stop thinking about risk as a threat and start seeing it as something to manage, something that can be delayed, redirected, softened. But the system you rely on is not a single entity. It is a collection of agencies that do not always communicate until they do. In October 2022, quiet inquiries begin from the SEC and the FBI, separate at first, routine, almost procedural, requests for clarification on filings, on flows, on timing. You respond through layers of representation, each message precise, controlled, buying time without resolving anything. Still, the tone shifts, subtle but real, and you sense that the questions are no longer about understanding your business, they are about mapping it. One evening, reviewing a set of requests that now cross-reference multiple entities, you realize the structure you built to stay unseen has become the very pattern they are starting to trace, and this time, the system is moving faster than you expected. By May 2023, you are no longer tied to a single office, a single city, or even a single identity, moving quietly between New York, Miami, and Zurich, where distance becomes your last layer of control. Level 5. The Untouchable. The name Ethan Cole still exists on paper, but your wealth now sits behind entities registered in places most people will never see, accounts that hold over $240 million spread across jurisdictions designed for silence. You rarely appear in person, choosing instead to operate through intermediaries, attorneys, advisors, people whose names carry weight while yours fades into the background. Transactions are no longer simple transfers, they are structured movements, routed through multiple institutions, timed, documented, and justified in ways that look ordinary when viewed in isolation. You convince yourself that complexity is protection, that if no one can see the full picture, then no one can challenge it. Days become quieter, slower, removed from the noise that once defined your rise, replaced by a controlled routine in spaces that feel expensive but empty. Yet information does not disappear, it waits. And in August 2023, a leak begins circulating among international journalists, fragments of data pulled from systems you trusted. The name Northbridge Capital appears again, not in polished headlines but in raw documents, cross-linked with accounts, timestamps, and movements that start forming a story you cannot edit. You watch as agencies across the United States and Europe begin aligning their findings, separate threads weaving into something unified. For the first time, your distance does not feel like safety. It feels like isolation, like watching a structure collapse from inside it. You review the data, searching for the gap, the one detail you missed, the single point where everything started to connect. And as the pieces fall into place, you realize the system you thought you understood has finally caught up. And this time, there is nowhere left to move. By the time everything connects, it no longer matters how careful you were or how far you moved from where it started. The structure you built to stay hidden becomes the evidence that defines you. Every transaction, every name, every decision forming a trail that cannot be erased. You realize too late that control was never yours, only borrowed for a moment in a system designed to outlast you. What began as survival became identity, and identity became exposure. And as the doors start to close one by one, you are left with a single question that never had a safe answer. Was it ever worth it?